Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. In case you didn't know, all the SA Matters episodes are now available on YouTube. Some of the guests I interview for near-miss events have video clips to share, and I wanted a way for you to be able to see the footage, and the audio format of a podcast just wasn't working well for the videos. So now we're posting all the episodes on YouTube, in addition to posting the audio episodes on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher Radio. Before I kick off this episode, I'd like to take a moment to talk about the live virtual training that is now available. How does it work? For those agencies that might not be able to afford to host a live classroom event, or maybe it's just not feasible to get all your members together at one time in one location, I can now come to your organization live via the internet and train your team on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making processes. It's sort of like a webinar, but it's live, real time, and we actually talk to each other just like we're in a classroom. And if someone can't attend the training, no problem. I'll provide you with a playback of your session for 30 days so those who miss it can make it up. For less than $1,000, you can train your entire organization, everyone, on situational awareness. Virtual training truly is the easiest and most affordable way to train your team on this important topic. If you want to learn more about virtual training, visit the samatters.com website and click on the orange box on the right side of the homepage labeled Virtual Training Programs. If you want to talk to me about how to incorporate this training into your already existing training schedule, just click the Contact Us tab on the homepage and I'll give you a call. Okay. That's enough of the announcements. Roll that SA Matters show intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
We can dance, everybody look at your hands. We can dance, everybody's taking the chance. Safe to dance, oh it's safe to dance. Yes, it's safe to dance.
Hello and welcome to episode 222 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of this show is to help individuals and teams improve situational awareness and decision making while working in environments that are high risk, high consequence, time compressed with changing conditions. From the beginning, the SA Matters mission has been simply this: to help you see the bad things coming and time to avoid bad outcomes. The message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making has been shared at conference events and for individual organizations for more than 13 years now. And we've trained just over 66,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, oil refinery operators, and more. This message truly is for anyone who works in a high-risk, high-consequence environment. I am dedicated to improving your safety and your survival, and I'm here to offer you a message of hope and a message of inspiration, and to help you accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, today I'm coming to you from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been off the road for almost a month now, and during that time, we hosted the celebration of the graduation from high school for my youngest son, Micah. I did some home repair projects, and I did my annual Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness Trip. This year, I hosted a couple out-of-town guests, Buckley Fire Chief Alan Predmore and Boeing firefighter Justin Torres. We had a great time, caught the biggest fish of my life, 36.5 inches, 8.5 pound northern pike. Man, what a fighter. And we ate 22 fish, best trip ever. And I've been going there for 17 consecutive years. By the time this episode airs, I will have completed my tour stop at the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference in Columbus, Ohio, where I will do programs on climbing down the ladder of success, preparing for your departure from public safety, and the challenges that creates. A program on flawed situational awareness, a program on firefighter safety, mistakes, and best practices, and I will keynote the banquet for their conference on Sunday night. It's going to be a full weekend of learning. Okay, in today's feature segment, it's a continuation of a series of flashback episodes that I'm running from the early days of the show. When I first launched the show back in 2014, I had some amazing guests on who shared some amazing near-miss stories. The problem is the show was new, really new, and I didn't have much in the way of a followership. Well, at least not like the followership we have today. So I wanted to give those who weren't around with us then an opportunity to learn from some of those stories. And today I'm going to share part 2 of a 2-part interview with Indianapolis Fire Department Deputy Chief of Health and Safety, Doug Abernathy. Doug, at the time of the incident, was a 4-year member of the Indianapolis Fire Department when he responded to a fire at the Athletic Club Hotel, an incident that would prove to be a significant near miss for Doug and would take the lives of 2 Indianapolis firefighters, Corporal Woody Gelenius and Private John Lorenzano. But before we get into the interview with Doug, let me take just a moment to mention the Supervisor Development Training Program that I created. Some of you know me well enough to know that my second passion, after situational awareness, is developing leadership skills in supervisors, something I didn't do a very good job of when I was a boss. I was guilty of promoting supervisors before they were prepared to lead others, and that was my fault. And then I'd get frustrated when they didn't provide good leadership to their team, or they didn't know how to appropriately deal with personnel issues, and that was my fault too. So I created the Supervisor Development Training Program. This program is customized to run anywhere from 2 to 5 days, and no matter the length of the program, there's no PowerPoint. Did you catch that? No PowerPoint. Can you imagine a week-long training class that doesn't use PowerPoint? Is that even possible? Not only is it possible, but it's a better way to learn the skills of good leadership. When adults are engaged in the process of learning and not just being lectured to, learning can be fun. And more importantly, the lessons stick. This program shares practical, actionable best practices for leadership, problem solving, conflict resolution, teamwork, communications, motivation, accountability, generational leadership, discipline, coaching for performance improvement, and more. If you're interested in learning more about this program and how to teach your supervisors a different way to lead, then contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab on the top of the SA Matters homepage. Today's episode is part 2 of the 2-part interview with Deputy Chief Doug Abernathy. At the time of the incident, Doug was a 4-year member of the Indianapolis Fire Department. I had taught a week-long Chief Officer Development program for the state of Indiana, and Doug was in the class. And he agreed to sit down with me after class and talk about this incident at the Athletic Club Hotel. Also in attendance was the recently retired Indiana State Fire Training Director, John Buckman, who shared some of his comments at the end of the interview. And I really appreciate the fact that both of them took some time to sit down and talk with me about this tragic event. On February 5th, 2002, just after midnight, the Indianapolis Fire Department was dispatched to a fire alarm at the Athletic Club Hotel. We're going to first watch a video, a short video documentary of the incident that is being showed with the permission of the producer, director, Brian Boyd. And then we'll segue into part 2 of the interview, which, by the way, will be audio only, because back when I recorded this, the show was only audio. All right, let's jump in to part 2 of my interview with Doug Abernathy.
In the winter of 1992, the chaos and unpredictability of fighting high-rise fires proved to be a chink in the IFD's armor. Highly trained, motivated, and successful, the firefighters responded to an alarm at a historic downtown hotel. But the seemingly routine run turned to disaster. The Athletic Club fire would force the department to examine its operations and tactics. This tragedy would unfold on a national stage.
In Indianapolis, an overnight fire in the hotel where the jurors in Mike Tyson's rape trial were staying forced a postponement in today's proceedings.
That guy asked me if I could get on that ladder. I told him, you bet your ass I can get on that ladder.
It was a rather cold February. I had 4 years on.
The fire came in a little bit after midnight. Most everybody had already gone to bed.
During this time period, we had several false alarms in the downtown area.
It was just a regular run. There was a light haze in the lobby, and we couldn't tell where it was coming from.
There were people milling all through the area.
I can't even remember how we were told that, well, we think it's up here on the 3rd floor.
It was myself and John Lorenzano. I was teamed up with John. He was a young sub at the time. John and I went up this grand staircase. Smoke was getting worse and worse as we were going up. As we got just about to the 3rd floor landing, John's beside me, and I told John to mask up, stay close. And he didn't say a word, he just looked at me and nodded.
On the 3rd floor, firefighters discovered the source of the smoke, an electrical malfunction in the bar. They quickly extinguished all visible flames.
At that point, we thought we had this fire knocked. We were really feeling good, very aggressive. We're in the fire room, we're doing it.
Above them, concealed by an old suspended ceiling, the fire continued to burn. Other members of the IFD were evacuating hotel guests, but unaware of the growing danger, the teams on the 3rd floor were running out of time and luck.
My alarm goes off. I've got low air. And all of a sudden, the lights went out. I'm crawling around, and for some reason I can't find the stairs I came up on. And I'm at that moment now, what am I gonna do? And I hear some muffling coming my way, and then I hear him talking, and it was Captain Mike Spaulding. I couldn't see him, but I could hear his voice. I know there's someone else there. I didn't know who it was at the time, but later on I found out it was Lorenzano.
Plan was, all 3 of us will go out the way we came in. We got to find that stairway. I couldn't see the stairwell. I couldn't see exactly where we were.
I go to the right, using the left-hand search. I'm following the wall. They're going to the left using the right-hand search. I crawl about 20 feet, and lo and behold, I find what I feel are the stairs. And so I remember hollering back. I felt like I was muffled. I got the stairs. I got the stairs. He couldn't really hear what I was saying, and I knew he couldn't. Somewhere down that corridor, they ran into Woody Gelenius. At the time, it was described that they ran into him, and his face piece was off, and he was just kind of leaning against the wall, ready to collapse, standing up high.
I got him under the left arm and tried to pull him down, and then you can't see anything. It was super dark, getting hot, very, very hot.
Do I stay here and run out of air, or do I get out? Well, I got out. I went straight down those stairs and zero visibility and made it out. And I'm yelling at him, we got some problems upstairs, we need some help.
And that's when a flashover occurred.
What had happened while I was downstairs was that a phenomenon called flashover had occurred. That heated black smoke was getting close to its ignition temperature. Simultaneously, a large volume of gas lit up the entire 3rd floor. And there were firefighters still up
wasn't good. And I didn't think I was going to get out of there, so I was hollering and making all the noise.
3 of us.
Firefighters still on the 3rd floor were no longer battling the blaze. They were fighting for their lives.
That flashover occurred over their heads, breaking down a lot of the ceiling materials along with flame and heat.
I did my best to start crawling out of there, and as I did, the straps on my SCBA melted off my back.
So I went in this window where there was
I can actually remember trying to take a breather. And then we discovered that John Lorenzano was missing. John Lorenzano was my classmate.
I went back up there, man. I thought I found him. Who came down with you? I went back.
We never found him.
As the chaos and confusion cleared, the devastating toll of the fire sank in. 2 firefighters were dead. John Lorenzano died in the building, Woody Gelenius at the hospital. A sweep of the hotel revealed a civilian also perished in the fire. Many firefighters suffered serious injuries and would spend months recuperating. Dozens of people were rescued, the historic building was saved, but the price to the department was immense.
Losing John and Woody, the fact that I was the last one really with both of them, and we got separated. I hate that. I wish I could have done something differently. I'm not sure what.
It was just chaos up there that night. It just seemed like if it could go wrong, it would. And it did.
It's a tragedy, and it's something that I'll always live with. I guess it's the downside of what we do.
All I wanted was just somebody to hold me like I was a child, because at that time I was feeling very vulnerable. The job does that to you sometimes.
For everybody that was on that scene that night, it was a life-changing moment.
It's always going to come up on you in your life. It'll just something that will remind you of it. Sometimes you wonder whether or not you pushed yourself far enough to go ahead and get it done, and that bothers you too. Can I go a little further with this? Did I miss something? They teach you on this job, they give you the training, and but it's a psychological thing with yourself. You have to deal with it.
Said, let's not let those two guys die in vain, that we've got to make changes.
So we changed some of our high-rise operations. We changed tools and equipment because there were several things we think contributed to the deaths other than flashover. We changed all of that. And we changed our mindset, not to be less aggressive, but to be more aware. And we did it through education.
Today, the IFD's commitment to safety and training is well established. The department's high-rise guidebook, developed after the athletic club tragedy, was adopted by the National Fire Academy, and Indianapolis now hosts the world's largest firefighting training conference. Through real-world experience and thousands of hours of practice, the IFD is recognized as a leader in preparing its firefighters for any situation.
But that's what those two guys did. They changed the Indianapolis Fire Department. Now, they paid the price for that.
Okay, let's resume our interview with Doug Abernathy, the Health and Safety Chief for the Indianapolis Fire Department, as he talks about locating and removing his two fallen comrades.
My situational awareness was not working for me at that time. But we carried her out a door directly at the base of the stairs, walked her right out. And there were other firefighters out there who started tending to her. And as we got her out, I realized I needed my helmet. And I go back in. And I go back into the second floor, and it was on the landing in between the second and the third floor. I ran into another group of firefighters carrying another firefighter out. I said, oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm in amazement. I hear, what happened? I'd never seen, at that time with 4 years on, I'd never seen a firefighter hurt, let alone being carried out. And this person was a lot bigger. It was Gelenius. And I tried to assist them carrying him out. And, we were all over him. We had him, as our brother. We're carrying him down the stairs, and we get him out. I had grabbed my helmet. And Woody, being a little bigger than Ann Compared, who was the other firefighter we carried out, those doors on the Vermont Street side were revolving doors. And we got stuck in those doors, And, you go back on your training and say, well, let's collapse those doors. Well, lo and behold, with the stress and with the emotions going on, we couldn't figure it out. And I can remember Lieutenant Jerry Montgomery from Engine 19, who always had a flathead axe with him, taking his axe, and he just totally destroyed these revolving doors, the metal framework, the glass, everything. And eventually we got Woody out. My next image of Woody is being carted away on a cot with Job DeVasia doing CPR on him as that cot is moving as we load him up in the ambulance. And I'm in total disbelief still. What's going on? It's just, what happened? And I'm rather winded. I can remember going to sit on the curb, taking a couple of breaths, getting another cylinder put on my back, when I hear that Mike Spaulding was down. That's the word I got. And that bothered me immensely. I think somewhere there was a camera shot of me screaming out of frustration. I said, wait a minute. He just showed me the way out. He can't be down. Well, I get up I'm ready to go back in again. This time I'm going to go up through the area, which is at a third story, sticking in a third story window, when I find out that they had just removed him out of another window by another aerial. And, I could let go. I let go for a minute, and I said, okay, that's good. But unbeknownst to me, what Mike had endured up there, he was with John Lorenzano, who was on his back step. John was my classmate. We had fought many fires together. And, just the shift day before, I can remember John and his family. Well, the very first time I saw this at a firehouse, a fireman's family came to visit him. John had just had a new baby girl, little Anne-Marie, and his wife Barb had brought her by the firehouse. And in him, I saw something that I wanted. I saw the love that a father has for his family, his wife and his child. And it sparked something in me. Like him, I had gotten married after I got on the job, and we hadn't been blessed with children yet, but I saw something that I wanted. My brother John had it. I was so happy for him. And lo and behold, back on the third floor of the athletic club, after I had left down, I went one way on the wall. Mike Spaulding and John crawled the other way. As they were crawling in the other direction, they ran into Woody Gelenius, who, as Mike Spaulding could explain it, was having an out-of-air situation. His face piece was off, his helmet was off, and they pulled him down to the ground and attempted to get Woody out when something occurred. Everything that was above their heads came down on top of them. You see, this building, the athletic club, when it was originally built, was built with high ceilings. Well, by the time we had gotten there on this athletic club fire, it had added additional ceilings. And you say, why did you add ceilings? Well, every renovation that came along every 10, 20, 30 years, instead of removing those ceiling tiles that were placed up there with the 5 pads of glue, you can see one in each corner and one in the center, those 12 by 12 ceiling tiles, they just stick them up there. Well, it would be too costly to scrape all that off and recondition that ceiling. Let's just put another ceiling in. And that's what they did. And over the years, they had performed that task 3 different times. So unbeknownst to us, the fire we thought we had put out in the McHale ballroom was raging in the large void spaces up above our heads. And it is believed that the flashover occurred in those void spaces and brought everything down on top of us when flashover had occurred. We're talking intense temperatures. Broke down all that building material and brought it down on top of us. Brought it down on Mike, Woody, and John. And Mike Spaulding fell one way, ended up suffering some pretty severe burns, and in an attempt to hit the emergency button on the radio, he took his glove off. We had just gotten these new radios with the little emergency button. To hit it, he felt he needed to remove his glove, and he took his glove off to push that button, and he never got it back on. Mike suffered some pretty severe burns to his hands and his head and his back, his arms, different areas of his body. But he kind of fell into a little kitchen area up there. Woody ended up laying right where they fell. John, my classmate, mind you, they were in the hallway when this collapse occurred. John got up and moved. Somehow John unfortunately ended up back in the McHale ballroom where the fire started, close to the windows, maybe about 4 feet from a window. We found him curled up in the fetal position inside the McHale ballroom after it was all said and done. Now, I know John. I fought fire with him. You know, I told you about my flashback. Can you imagine what his flashback was like? You know, seeing his family and his daughter. You know, my flashback took me back to my dog Laddie and my wife and my brothers and sisters and my parents. And I lived through it. I can only imagine what his was like. Mike Spaulding was carried out by some brothers and sisters on the east side of the building. We found John hours later after going back in, searching several times. But we lost 2 strong brothers that day, injured many others. And to this day in my life, that was 20 plus years ago, I've never had a more transitional moment. You see, it taught me something about fire that I never knew, that I was taking for granted. For the first time in my career, now I'd been on 4 years, and that's not a long time, but we were fighting a lot of fire. You know, I had some days where we fought 2, maybe 3 fires in a day. I was really feeling confident about what I was doing and the people I was doing it with. But all of a sudden, I learned how dangerous that job really was. All of a sudden, for the first time, I did not want to see fire anymore. It changed my mind. You see, up until that point, I was in a mindset, boy, I hope we get one today. Boy, I can't wait to get that fire. Oh, I missed one. I went to lunch and I missed one. You know, you hated that stuff. I was gung-ho for fire. You see, I never looked at fire as something that would ruin someone's life or take someone's life. I looked at it as a challenge, something to be defeated. I never looked at it as the true killer that it was. And now, for the first time in my life, first time in my career, I didn't want to see fire anymore. I realize now that it can wait. And when I see it, I'm going to do my job. But until then, I'm not in a rush for a fire ever again in my life. There was an atmosphere on the fire department after that. It kind of changed all of us. It changed our entire fire department and many of the communities around us. It didn't just affect IFD firefighters. It affected firefighters throughout the Midwest and the nation. I'd never been to a firefighter's funeral before, but oh my goodness, what a beautiful thing to behold for such a tragic event. I was not expecting that either. We had thousands of firefighters there on a sub-zero temperature day, dressed in their Class Blue, Class A uniforms, and it was beautiful as we said goodbye to our brothers. But I realized too, now that's something that you don't want to see. So what IFD had to do is figure out how we can make changes. And I'm here to tell you today that we've made a lot of changes. We needed to find out a way to train our firefighters to recognize the phenomenon of flashover. We ended up shopping around. We searched the entire country and the world over for something that would teach us this. You see, all of a sudden, we had a lot of support, not just from other firefighters, but from the community. It's funny how such a tragic event gave everyone a greater awareness to what we do, and all of a sudden, monies and funding became available, and we were able to locate the suite survival system and start training in flashover behavior, fire behavior in the phenomena called flashover. We also bought a flameover prop that would simulate that, and we began training our firefighters in that phenomena. It also helped us, in a sense, bring FDIC to town, Fire Department Instructors Conference. We changed our SCBAs, we changed our turnout gear, we changed our SOPs and general orders. One of the chiefs on that run, Chief Clyde Feaster, wrote a book, wrote a guide, the high-rise operations guide, that's been used by several cities and countries around the world as a beginning, as a door opener to understanding how to do things right on a high-rise to the best of your ability. You see, we made some mistakes. Some mistakes can't help to be made in such a situation. But our goal was to learn as much from that incident as possible so that as we move forward as a fire department, we can prevent this from ever happening again. I look back on that day as a multifaceted transition for me. Personally, what did it do for me from that day on? It opened up my eyes. It opened the eyes of this blind man and allowed me to see what I should be doing. I've been blessed. Somehow the Lord works things out like this. I've been blessed to be a part of our training division. After the fire, maybe a year or two, I had injured myself, and that detailed me to training. I got a chance to work with a recruit class, and I was able to express some of my passion both for the job and both for doing the job right to them. One of my chiefs taught me flashover instructing. He made me a flashover instructor, so I was blessed to be able to teach the phenomenon of flashover to all of IFD and many beyond. Training became my thing because of the disaster of the athletic club fire, because it taught me that we can never be over-prepared for what we do. There are so many inherent dangers in our job that we must constantly be vigilant with our training, because if we fail to let our training teach us, then we fail not just ourselves but our communities. So we train on IFD, and we share training with others. We've taken training from others around the country, around the world. At this very moment, I'm in a training class, and I will keep training and sharing and learning from others, because every piece of knowledge we gain through training and share makes a difference. Thank you for listening.
What out there listening is a new firefighter who's been on 4 years or less, who is anxious for the fire, wants the worker, doesn't want to miss it, is full of enthusiasm. And if you could offer him any wisdom, him or her, any wisdom based on your years of experience and what you've been through and what you've seen your department go through after this tragic loss, what would you tell this young firefighter?
I'd say, for me, is remember your training and depend on it. And if you feel that you're not getting enough training, you're probably right. Don't be afraid to go above and beyond to gain knowledge in this deed of firefighting, because there's knowledge out there. Seek it out. You know, sometimes we're told, well, you're a rookie on the job, all you need is some experience. Where some of us aren't getting a lot of experience out there. Fires just aren't occurring as much as they used to. I've seen a drastic change in my career, and it's even more so true for the young firefighter coming on today. So how does he protect himself and his peers? He trains with them. He trains for them. He trains for his family so that he can come home, because they must know now that they are the most important person on the fire ground. And to maintain and understand that importance, we have to keep training. There are a lot of things we did wrong on that fire that, had we had some training or recognition, we might have been able to make a difference. We might have been able to save one of those 2 lives. Your training can lead you out. If I think back on it, as I think back on it, my training brought me out of that building, even when I thought it failed me, memorizing the floors I was on, memorizing every turn that I made. As I went into that building, I was able to get out of that building in 0 visibility. That was training. Keep training. Training is a big thing for me. You know, I've been blessed to be a training instructor and been trained by some of the best in the world. And I still lean heavily on training.
Good.
And share it with others.
Good. Doug, thank you for taking some time to sit down with me and share this amazing, amazing story. Chief Buckman, have you heard this before?
No. I read the report because the next day we had the plane crash in Evansville. The C-130 crashed into the Drury Hotel. So 2 major events in Indiana, which so they were interrelated. But I've never heard his story, and I would tell you, emotional, high power, and it will make a difference. The people who listen to this will learn from this. You will influence their decisions, and it'll be influencing them for the better. So again, thank you for sharing. You can tell it still impacts you.
Yeah.
No matter what, and it will always be with you. But I think also, and I remember the report. And like any event, there are challenges, but you did the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. And if you wouldn't have done those right things for the right reason at the right time, it could have been worse. So you have confidence in yourself that you did the right thing and you saved other firefighters' lives. So,
well, the most inspiring thing about it is how Indianapolis took that event as a springboard to make so many changes. John, you travel around, you see it. I travel around and see it. Departments that have critical injuries or line of duty deaths and change nothing. Change nothing. It's like they're in denial, or if they change something, it'd be like, well, then we would be admitting that we did something wrong. And then even, John, when you were speaking to the class today, you talked about an incident where firefighters got killed, 5 of them, and they interviewed the chief, and he said, well, I do the same thing the same way again. Just like in total denial of anything that went wrong and how to fix it. And that is not at all what happened in Indianapolis. I mean, you guys just went and took those lessons and said, this is going to be a pinnacle moment for our organization.
Well, you had 2 people. I'm not sure if you mentioned Chief Smith, Keith Smith, who was the fire chief. He never liked the status quo.
Right.
He always wanted to be improving and asking the tough questions. And you also had, I forgot, Chief Feaster, who was the incident commander, who you talked about his high-rise training package, or high-rise policy and procedure package that he wrote, his training package, which was adopted in many, many urban cities around the country. You had 2 just high-quality firefighters who remembered the street, but realized their responsibility as a chief is to make this thing better. It's a tragedy, it's a catastrophe we made some errors, we could have done some things different, let's share it. And you had two chiefs that stood up and said, we want to share it. So hats off for them.
Yeah, Keith Smith, I can remember him telling us, when you get this training up and going, I want you to share it. You share it with anybody who wants it. And at that time, he gave us carte blanche to go above and beyond IFD to share that training. And, he opened up that door of opportunity. He didn't want to just keep it here in Indy. He wanted to make sure that everybody who needed it and wanted it could get that training. And I think it had something to do with the FDIC coming to Indianapolis, us opening the doors to it and being embraced, and still being here 22 years later.
Thank you again, Chief Abernathy and Chief Buckman, for sharing your powerful story and your comments and allowing all of us to learn from you. Remember that this is a two-part episode, so if you missed part one, you might want to go back and listen to it. In case you missed the episodes previous to these with Doug, you might want to go back and listen to episodes 219 and 220, a two-part interview with Captain John Lightly from the Youngstown Fire Department, and hear his near-miss story where he survived a flashover event. And speaking of sharing the lessons of near misses, I have a favor to ask of you, the listeners and viewers of this show. The primary reason I launched this show was to give a voice to those who've experienced near misses for a chance to tell their stories. And the experiences that they have shared have been nothing short of amazing and extremely educational. And I'd like to get more of those lessons shared with the listeners and the viewers, and I need your help to do that. So if you've experienced a near-miss event and would like to share your lessons learned with others, then go to the SAMatters.com website and click on the Contact Us tab on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your near-miss event could save someone else's life. That's really powerful. What a wonderful way to share your knowledge with others. So if you want to share your experiences, then just reach out to me.
Real expectations, because SA matters.
Know your limit. Know your partner's limit, because SA matters.
Assumptions are bad. SA matters.
Proper PPE is important, because SA matters.
Flawed situational awareness is a really big deal. SA matters.
Know your water supply, because SA matters.
Bears and Cougars. SA matters.
Go versus no-go, because SA matters.
Confidence is good. Overconfidence is bad. SA matters.
Buddies matter, because SA matters.
SA matters. So don't get angry.
When the pigs are eating lemons, SA matters.
Our academy class is going home today because we know that SA matters.
SA matters!
Okay, as I always do, I want to take the moment to thank the companies, organizations, and agencies and departments that have hosted situational awareness training for their team members. I do this to show my appreciation to those who put forth the time and the effort to organize, advertise, and fund training for their team on this important topic. Recent tour stops included the I Women's Conference in Tysons, Virginia, the New Brunswick Fire Chiefs Conference in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Fire Rescue Med Conference in Henderson, Nevada, and the Ohio Fire Chiefs Conference in Columbus, Ohio. That was my second time presenting for the Ohio Fire Chiefs, so thank you for the faith and confidence for inviting me back. All right, on July 19 through 27, you might have heard in a previous episode, I was supposed to be at the Syncrude Oil Refinery in Fort McMurray, Alberta. However, they had a catastrophic power failure at the plant that caused some big problems. So the July and August program dates have been pushed to November, December, and January. So I won't be there for those as previously shared. August 3 and 4, I will be at the Evansville Fire Department in Evansville, Indiana. That's an event open to the public. You can check my Facebook page for how to register, and I'll put a link in the show notes too. August 9 and 10, I'll be at Fire Rescue International in Dallas, Texas. August 11 and 12, the Northwest Fire District in Houston, Texas. August 13 through 16, the Missouri City Fire Department in Missouri City, Texas. August 17 and 18, Lake City Fire Department in Lake City, Texas. Then September 13th, I'll be at Eagle Materials in Grapevine, Texas. September 17 and 18, Odessa Fire Department in Odessa, Texas. I got a little Texas thing going on in August and September, so I'm pretty happy about that. I get some great audiences in Texas. September 22, the Columbia Shoe Swap Regional District in Alberta, Canada. And then September 29, the Badger Firefighter Association Symposium in West Bend, Wisconsin. If you're interested in seeing all the locations of upcoming Situational Awareness Matters events, just head over to the SA Matters website and click on the blue box on the right side of the homepage labeled Live Training Dates. The program schedule is always changing, so check back often. If you're interested in hosting a Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event, just click on the Contact Us tab and I'll get a hold of you. There are over 100 programs scheduled for 2018 and a couple of dozen already scheduled for 2019. I have a few dates left in the fall of 2018, so if you're interested in getting some training completed yet this year, contact me right away. Well, that's it. Episode 222 of the SA Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guest, Doug Abernathy from the Indianapolis Fire Department and Indiana Fire Training Director John Buckman for your comments. Thank you to our awesome sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted Situational Awareness Matters programs. Thank you to all the organizations that have hosted the live, virtual, internet-based training. And thank you to the more than 2,000 students and graduates of the acclaimed Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listeners and viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.